All right, never mind. Just carry on for just a second then. Oh, I had no idea how many people to expect tonight. And so we're going to get started. And literally tonight is one of those family meetings. How many of you ever have family meetings at your own home? Where you sit down as a family and you have a conversation? And how many of you absolutely love those? Now, here's the question. How many of you love to call them and lead them? Now, how many of you love to participate in them? How many of you would like to avoid family meetings altogether? And yet you're here. How many of you don't vote at anything I ever ask from this platform? Yeah, there we go. Thank you. There's an honest assessment. So listen, we're going to dig in, and tonight's really just sharing some reports and sharing some facts with you. We'll try to be somewhat brief and complete and whole, and leave some opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. But as we get started, I have an opportunity to talk to you for just a moment about our mission at Mountain View. And the reason I want to start out sharing about our mission is because our mission really is going to set a foundation for how you filter everything else you hear. Hopefully, everything that we report and everything we're communicating drives us to our mission. Does that make sense? And so what is our mission? Our mission is that we want to affect life change. We want to affect life change. Life change that we're talking about is life transformation. It's totally changing our lives, right? That's what it's about. And why do we want to affect life change? The reason we want to affect life change is because Jesus, before he ascended, said that we would be witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. That was what he commanded his disciples to go and do. And even before that, after he rose from the dead, he's meeting with his disciples, and he told his disciples, go, because all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me, is what Jesus said. I have the authority there, and I have the authority here, which makes sense with our kingdom mindset that we've been talking about, right? That the kingdom is now, the kingdom is here, the kingdom isn't just later, it's not in a distant future. He said, I am here. The kingdom of God is at hand, and it's in the future. And so he says, all authority on heaven and earth has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach them to obey everything that I've commanded. And then he gave them this promise. If you do this, I will surely be with you always. And so at Mountain View Christian Church, we want life change. We want life transformation. And here's the thing. You can read a lot of books about change. You can go to a lot of different professionals who will help you make change. But we absolutely, and I need us just to know this with our whole heart, mind, soul, and strength, we absolutely believe that a person can't experience the life change, the transformation that we're talking about without Jesus. And so it starts out with these three words, belong, grow, serve. And fundamentally, foundationally, a person has to belong to Jesus in a personal relationship with him if they plan on making any lasting, effective change in their life. Does that make sense? Like, that's what separates us from every I got lots of words that are crashing at one time. And I want them all to be appropriate. You know, any program that you might sign up for any change, let's put it that way, that's what makes us different. It just absolutely does. And so then the other part of belonging is this. We want to belong to a community of people. We believe with our whole heart that the Christian life is better together with other people, that God intended the Christian life to be done together. And the people who struggle most in their Christian life usually don't have a community of people. Is it messy? Uh-huh. Right? I mean, look at each other. I love saying this. Every time I talk about this, look around. Nobody does. Look around at the weirdos next to you. Like serious. And I know we're still social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And some of you, because of the messy family, really prefer that. I've had some of you say, can we please keep the chairs like this always? Right? Whoa. Calm down. Sorry I said anything. We're a little temperamental still, I see, okay? Whoo. We want to belong to a community. We want to grow. We want to grow in that relationship with Jesus. One of the things I tell people, if you have not grown in your relationship with Jesus, if you don't look more like Jesus today than you did a year ago, something's not right. We've failed as a church, as a leadership, because our whole objective as a leadership at our church is to help you toward Christian maturity. That's what our elders' job description tells us. And so we have failed. If you haven't experienced growth, you have also failed. All of us should be becoming more and more like Jesus, and then we want to grow in that relationship with each other. And then this beautiful, beautiful concept from Colossians chapter 3, clothe yourself with humility, and we serve other people on behalf of Jesus. That's what we do. I think Paul adored the church because multiple times, Romans, Corinthians, he talks about how we are a body made up of many different pieces, and somehow we figure out how to work together. We have different talents and different abilities. We have different circles of people that we get to influence. Does that make sense? It's incredible. And so belonging is this personal relationship with Jesus, and it's central to the Christian life. Galatians 3 says this, so in Christ Jesus you are all children of God through faith. For all of you are baptized into Christ, and you've clothed yourselves with Christ. If you belong to Christ, listen to this, then you are heirs according to their promise. Man, that should excite us. How about Acts chapter 2? They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And all the believers were together. That belonging in community with one another. How about growing spiritual and relationally in the context of our relationship with Jesus and our relationship with each other? 1 Peter says this, therefore rid yourself of malice and deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind. And like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk so that by it you may grow up in your salvation. So that you may continue to grow now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. And we preached through this a couple of years ago, Philippians chapter 2, verses 12 and 13, that says, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purposes. And then Galatians 6, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. How do we do that if we're not in community with one another? It's beautiful because Paul said to the church of Galatia, carry one another's burdens and then serve. God gave each one of us the abilities, the talents to impact the world and the people around us. And I love this part of the church because Colossians 3 says this, whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord you are serving. One of the things I adore about Mountain View is the fact that people serve, and they serve their hearts out with their gifts and their talents. And they don't do it for me. They don't do it for accolades. Our pay stinks. Ask George. I mean, we just serve Jesus. That's what it's about. Mark chapter 10, which we'll get to sometime in the next decade, says, not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. And then Jesus said this, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom to many." And Micah 6:8, great verse. "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Man, that's, if you wonder who Mountain View is, that's who we are. And that's who we continue to become. And we don't want people just to connect with our church. We don't want people just to give to our church. We don't want people just to serve our church. And since we're kind of a members meeting, I can tell you I still want you to do those things. But ultimately, I want us to dig deep and have that transformational life change that Jesus really desires for all of us to have. I want that. I want when people walk through our doors to experience transformation, life change. I want them to experience that. Are there some things about our church that we keep working through and on? Absolutely. Because that's who we are. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep changing. We're going to keep trying to make sure we fulfill the mission of Jesus even better. Sound fair? All right, so everything you hear then, filter through that. You just got the crash course of Mountain View Christian Church right there. Okay? Everybody good? Sweet. So I'm going to invite our elders up here, okay? And the reason I'm inviting them all up here is because, we're live streaming this also. And we all need to be kind of close together so that we'll fit into the camera view. Make sense? So Steve Muma, why don't you come on up, and I'll invite Webb and Steve Morrow also. If our elders who are here, come on guys, come on. All right, and we'll just kind of stand behind Steve here for a moment as he shares. Grab that microphone right there.
Good evening, family. So I've got the wonderful privilege of calling out several people tonight. And I get to call them out for an amazing thing. The first two men that I want to call out for affecting life change for the last 5 years is Steve Morrow and then Webb Norton. Steve has served on the board for 5 years. He spent 3 of those years as the board secretary. Webb spent the last 4 years serving the board. And what I want to say about Webb is, as the elder statesman on a really old board, and we are really old, he was the calming influence. Whenever I felt uneasy, I could look at Webb, and it's like, we're going to get through this, and here's how we're going to do it. And I very much appreciated that about Webb. Now, there's 2 other people associated with these 2 that really need a shout out. One is Marcia, who's got to put up with this guy every day. And then Sharon, who gets to put up with Webb every day. As the wives of the elders will tell you, it's not an easy task, because there are times that we come home, we can't share what's on our heart, we might be in a grumpy mood, whatever it might be after an elder board meeting, and there have been nights like that, and they just say, you know what, we love you, and we're going to pray for you. So thank you, men, for your service. Very much appreciated. The next gentleman that I would like to call out isn't here tonight. I'm hoping, Dick, you're at home. Dick Carroll heard God's call. Finally, after over 30 years, the time was right to be a member of the elder board. He's going to serve at least a minimum of 4 years serving our body. And together with Dick, thank you, together with Dick is his beautiful wife, Debbie, who is going to be right along his side, helping him every step of the way. So let's give him a thanks.
So really quick, what we'll have these guys do is just tell us their names so that you know who they are. One of the things people say is, what are elders? And people say, are they old guys? And I say, yeah. Yeah. And but more than that, we'll talk about this in just a moment, they serve. And so just tell us your name. I'll hold your microphone for you. Is that all right? I don't want you to talk forever, Pat.
Not an issue anymore. Pat Sanders.
And Pat is our chairman. So give him an extra round of applause real quick, all right?
Brian Lotus.
And Brian took over Steve's job as secretary.
Steve Muma, vice chair.
Oh, you stole it right out of my mouth. Anyway, no clap for him.
Mike Flum.
And Mike is the treasurer, so you get to hear from him in a second, all right?
The newbie, Jack Kennedy.
Yeah.
John Pirtle.
Dave Lane.
There you go. There you go. So what I've asked Webb Norton each year when we gather, I just want our elders to recommit our kind of commitment line. And so Webb Norton, who's going off, is going to read a commitment, and our elders will simply respond with I do. And what I want you to understand is this is a commitment to you all. That's what it is. Our elders don't serve to serve themselves. Our elders serve as elders to serve our church and to grow us toward Christian maturity. Does that make sense? And so, Webb, would you do that? And then, Steve, as you're outgoing, would you pray for our elder team?
Do you promise to honor God by fulfilling the elders' work as shepherds, by protecting, caring, leading, and governing Mountain View Christian Church? Further, will you commit to grow Mountain View Christian to maturity? If you do, please say, I do. I do.
Come on and grab a hold of each other, guys. Let's go. Yeah, come on. Let's get in here.
You got to draw the play up?
Yes. 10, 14, 21. Punt! Oh, Lord. Lord, we come to you in all seriousness as we look upon these men that have become Mountain Views, and if I can remember this right, there are our Nehemiahs. They are building the wall that this world has thrown at us. These men have stepped forward, and they've taken on an awesome and weighty responsibility to lead this body as you would have us be for your Son, to protect this flock. These are the shepherds of this flock, and to guide them and to teach them. And we ask that you place your shroud of protection around each of one of them, their dear wives, their children, so that they can concentrate their efforts on carrying out the mission that you've laid before us in this church, to move your mission forward, to bring people to Christ. And with your protection and the lack of being scatterbrained, have you, I'm getting a loss of words, but when they don't have to worry about the situations of this world with their own families and their own persons and their health, they can concentrate on leading this body and moving forward for you. So we ask that in this year that remains, And in the years to come, as each one of them serve, you guide them, you give them presence of mind, you give them rest, you give them inspiration, you touch them, and you bring them to a point that as a group, they are in alignment with each other, and their alignment is through you. And with that, we know that you can bring great things about and help us fulfill your mission. And in your Son's name we pray, amen. Pass the mic. Pass the mic to Mike. There we go.
So one of the things, our elders love to hear from you, and we do have an email address. If you want to contact any of our elders for any purpose at all, you can email elders@mvcclive.com. They really do. They're present. They're here on Sundays. Feel free to ask them any question. If you want to talk to an elder and you don't know who they are, find me and I will direct you to them, all right? Happy to do that. That's really a desire that they have. Mike Flum has served as our treasurer, and this is sometimes people's favorite. This is why you come to business meetings, right? Church meetings right here is finance reports. And so would you show Mike some appreciation for the extra diligence that he does in serving that way?
Well, good evening. Thank you, everybody that's here. It's a good turnout. I appreciate you're here. For those of you who are on our online campus watching tonight, thank you for tuning in. I'm bringing a finance report, and it's good news, and that's a nice thing. Give you some background. About 8-9 years ago, our finances were like a house built on the sand. Tanny Staphenson was our treasurer at that time, just kind of grabbed the reins of it because it was in trouble and would tell us 9 weeks. And he meant 9 weeks is how much money we had. Well, he didn't know it. It was really 7 weeks because we'd had to use 2 weeks to buy the plywood to put up over the windows. But since then, through Tanny's foresight, his guidance, and his efforts, we have assembled a finance team. We have met our bank covenants. Currently today, one of our bank covenants is that we have 3 months of operating expenses reserved and set aside. We have a couple more months than that set aside right now on top of that. We have partnership loans on our last fundraising, and during that time, each year, we set aside money to cover those loans at the end of the 5 years. We're up to date on our reserves on those. And so our financial situation is very strong for a church. And that is really, really good news. And I think God has really taken care of us through this. What we do with our finances is try to accomplish our mission, which Tom talked about earlier, which is affecting life change through belonging, growing, and serving. So I've put my slides together in that sense. I'm not giving you financial statements tonight, but I'm giving you financial information. Anybody who wants more depth on our financial information, I can get that to you, and there's nothing hidden. But anyway, so first I want to talk about God's provision to our mission. So go ahead and put the numbers up. In this past year, we really didn't know what to expect. And we didn't know, were we going to see 2/3 of the income due to COVID that we had before? Were we going to see half? You know, what were we going to see? We felt we would see less money. And probably one of the things I should point out earlier, what's different this year is typically we report on our finances 6 or 7 months after the end of the fiscal year. But this year we brought in last year's fiscal year, which ended on 6/30/2020, and I brought in the 11th month's totals through 5/31/2021. And as you can see, God's provision to us is almost on pace with last year's general fund giving. Your faithfulness to Mountain View has been so strong. I watched another church service 2 weeks ago, and it was their Memorial Day service. They were $550,000 behind. And you guys have faithfully supported this church, giving of what God has given to you, and has kept us on track financially. So you can see that through the year we've received 970,000 this year. We have our rental income that we have from the school and from church that rents from us, and another occasional rental that comes in. Our missions income is above and beyond giving. Okay, so out of our general giving, the church gives 10% to local and global missions. The number you see up there on missions is money that the congregation has contributed above the 10%. A big chunk of that went to the Get a Through schools that's being built in Africa. I see some fist pumping going on down there. And then also there's a good amount of money that goes to No One Left Behind. There's money that comes in to go support Pablo in Mexico. And that is just people stepping up and doing more. And that is just great. Other sources of income that we have are events and other non-general fund sources of money that come in. And I show that up there. So these are the cash contributions that came in. What's not up there is the giving that we did for the remodel project, because that came in the year before this one. I've also left those expenses out because they've pretty much matched up. And what I want to show is really basically our current ministry givings as we're going here. So now I want to go to our next slide. So God's been good, working through you to provide to Mountain View. And then as a result, as you can see it come up, I could use this TV back here, but I can't see that far. So we have, as I said, this is our mission. So we have gathering and administration expenses, and that gives us our place to belong. Okay, these funds are mortgages, reserves for partnership loans, building and grounds expenses, utilities, insurance, building repairs, phones, copiers, computer hardware and software, professional fees, things like that. Really the foundational pieces that got to lay into place so we can do our other work and for God's kingdom here in this world. The second item is our ministry expenses, and that's what provides for our people. You know, we have a people to grow as we mature. And so this are items like staff salaries, curriculum, music, children's, student, women's and men's ministries, worship, projection, lighting, and communion supplies. These are the things that grow us. And these are the things we invest in to help one another. And finally, we have our mission spending, and that's a world to serve. So that's our belong, grow, serve. That's our local missions, our Mexico missions, and the number of different people and organizations we support for our global missions. And so that's all work we are able to do because we've got a place to come and gather. We have people and systems and to equip us, and then our maturity springs up and we serve. And so that's how we support this church and how we execute our mission. So that's the numbers. They're strong, they're good. Income is over, the cash inflow is over the cash outflow that we're spending, continues to build and strengthen that foundation of what we have. So this is my presentation. I forgot to do everything but have an ending, which is very unusual for me. In 8th grade, I was a student body president. And I went to St. Joseph's on 148 Division. There was a field next door to us, and they were starting a building project there. And it was all these condos going in. And I had to get up and deliver a message to the students not to go over there after school. And I didn't have an end. So when I got to the end, I just stood there. And then someone laughed. And then someone else laughed. And pretty soon there were about 200 kids laughing at me. And it seemed really long. And finally I just turned and went and sat down. So normally the first thing I ever do is come up with my ending. I forgot to do that tonight. But anyway, God has blessed His church. God has blessed us as individuals. We've been able to share with one another through our giving. We've been able to take that giving and then make good use of it as we represent Jesus in this world. And so thank you very much.
you. Isn't that good news? Like, we really do strive to make sure every dollar given, every penny given to Mountain View does go towards affecting life change. So we leverage our building, we leverage our space for community and kingdom work. We leverage, everything. We really do. We try to leverage everything. And there was a moment last April when we found out everything had to close. And I wouldn't say a panic moment, but I certainly had some indigestion when I realized we are closed and we don't know how long we're going to be closed, and we've got a building payment coming up towards the end of April, and nobody can come into it. And I remember just saying to God, you have this, and you have to do a work among our people to maintain that faithfulness. And I am so grateful to God because He has used you in mighty and powerful ways to keep us strong. And so would you please seriously applaud yourselves and celebrate this moment for you. Awesome. All right, I'm going to introduce to you our staff, all right? Because a lot of people are like, who is who and what do they do, all right? And so if you're on staff, why don't you come up here just like our elders did. Now, hello, come on. I don't know who's worse, the elders or the staff. Look at that. All right? And so part of what we'll do is I'll introduce our admins to you because our admin team, if you know anything about church admin teams, they probably have the hardest job in the church because they not only serve the pastors as admins, but they actually serve all of you as admins. And that's always a rather interesting thing sometimes because you know how people are. One person will ask this and then somebody else will request the total opposite there. And so let me introduce to you, you guys all trying to, you're feeling awkward? Strange? Yeah. All right, so this is
Eileen Wilkins, and I am the systems administrator.
Systems. Woo! There's about only 2 of you in here that I know really like that kind of thing, right? And so what are systems? Systems are our database, it's our calendar, it's all of our assets. In other words, like when you reserve a space in the building and you want an 8-foot table in a room, guess what? Then we have like our calendars and our time off stuff, and then we've got all of that. Guess who does that? Doesn't that fun? Does anybody want her job? You are here. All right, next.
Laura Barth,
And you do what?
finance assistant.
So really, Laura works for Mike, is what happens. Actually, Laura is the one who makes sure every week that bills are sent to the finance team, the giving is taken to the bank, and the giving statements that go out every year. So you can either praise her or curse her, whatever you prefer. All right, she's used to that. But that's Laura. She really just takes care of all of the financial needs, and that's not all she does. She's actually does quite a few things. Sometimes she'll answer the phones in the front office and take care of the rest of us. Frankly, she does payroll every 2 weeks, and so she's our favorite one up here. All right? Does that make sense? And then she just is. You, on the other hand, anyway, let me introduce her, or you introduce.
I'm the least favorite. I'm Connie Marshall, and I'm the facility manager.
Connie took advantage of nobody in the building, and I don't know how to say this, but if you go to some of our storage spaces, they are immaculate. Because she said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to clean some things up. Connie does not like messes. How many of you have had grow groups and you've had cookies and you left a mess on the floor? Oh, nobody in the room. Yeah. Connie makes sure that you know you should clean that up. All right? But especially with COVID this year and just the cleaning and the things that had to happen for the school to be here and all of that, Connie really did go above and beyond in all of that stuff. She has learned things. I mean, you were a church member here how long?
Like 15, 16 years.
And did you have any idea the things that we actually have to deal with in a
No,
building?
Not at all.
And so, like, what's been some of your learning things?
Well, I know a lot about grease traps and vaults that are outside and smoke alarms and fire extinguishers and hood suppression systems. What else?
You know the roof pretty well.
HVAC, because we had a lot of that going on lately.
So
Been on the roof of the building several times.
she's certainly not afraid to say, there's leaves causing a leak, I'll just go up and take care of it. And we all say, go, Connie, go, Connie. So anyway, there you go, there you go. And so this is, one more down here. I'm like, where'd you go? I saw you.
I'm Brenna Peterbot, and I am our creative director.
So let's face it, Brenna has been a big part of making sure that online church has gone out in the last year, all right? And that's a big piece of what she's done. And so often when Mountain View says, hey, I'm really glad to see you, now you have a face with the Mountain View highlighted on the YouTube channel, all right? That's Brenna. And Brenna has been doing several things. She was our child care director, and then she's just taken on a lot of those other pieces. Marissa is not here tonight. Marissa works in the front office, and she is responsible for weekend projection, and she's responsible for a lot of the website content. She helps manage our Facebook pages and our Instagram pages, all those things that some of you pay attention to and others of you don't, right? And so multiple avenues of communication that way. And so that's our admin team. So a couple of things. We've really spent some time this year making sure that our reservation process is thorough. We get all the information we need to get, and we give it to the people who need it. And we know who's supposed to be doing what and when and how. It is possible, because again, we want to leverage the building, right? It is possible that sometimes you might expect to come here and find a room to meet in, and guess what? There is no room. And so the reservation process is important. It's critical. The event planning process is critical and important. We have limited resources, so to make sure, we just ask that you reserve space in the building. And you can do that actually on our website now. You can request a room, and the process is explained there. If you have trouble finding that, then you just call the church, and you ask for Eileen, and she will tell you, why in the world aren't you on the website, right? That's probably what she'll tell you. Okay? And then Connie, also, one of the processes we did is a lot of people see things that are broken in the building, and guess what? We don't hear about it. And one of the worst things is an overflowing toilet that nobody tells us about. You know, that hasn't really happened in a long time. Occasionally. Have you had to use the plunger at the church yet?
Not for overflowing, but
But yes, okay. So, too much information, I know. You're totally irrelevant. How many of you want her job? Exactly. But if there's a maintenance thing that you see, there's also a form on our website so that our community, our church, our togetherness, our belonging, we can all work on that stuff together. All right? So that's our admin team. Would you give them a nice round of applause? All right? And you guys can go sit back down. So we'll start out with Josh. And the reason we'll start out with Josh, you introduce yourself. How's that?
Well, first, let me hear you say Jesus. Say Jesus. All right, I'm going to rap for you. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to rap for you right now. Hi, guys. My name is Josh. I'm your worship pastor. Hello. It's so awesome to have you all here tonight. Thank you very much for being here. What else am I supposed to tell them? Cool. All right, well, hey, guys. A lot of you, maybe not you guys, but a lot of people think that, leading worship is just about picking songs and singing songs and things like that, but it's a lot more than that. It's about connecting people to the heart of God. It's about helping people who don't know Jesus come to fall in love with Jesus. And that's pretty much what myself and my assistant, Andrea Bash, she's back there somewhere. Stand up, Andrea. Yeah, there she is right there on the chair. That's what we strive for every single week. We love people and we love God, and we know that God loves people, and we want to share with those people the love of God. All right? Cool.
How many of you appreciated Josh loaning, like he was the Lone Ranger out? How did you like that?
No.
Didn't think so. All right, next. What are you going to do? Do you dance? Do you like what Josh did? If you know Christian, Christian is like this, what you see right now is exactly what we get. So introduce yourself, all right, and tell us what you do.
Sounds good. I'm Christian Bass, and I am the student ministry pastor. I think our email prompt said to tell you what we're doing in our ministry right now. So maybe the big thing for us right now is the more we just look at middle schoolers and high schoolers, they're just really individual, and they're at a certain place in their life, and they hear things a specific way, and they're going through things a specific way. And so over COVID, we split into middle school and high school, partially because it made sense procedurally, and partially because it was an excuse for us to try it out. And so we've split there. And so now we're just getting better and better at ministering to that age group, middle school and high school, and how to really be effective doing things for them right where they're at in life. And so that's pretty much it. And I don't know, playing a bunch of ultimate Frisbee with students this summer, so.
If you would love to work with students as a leader, grow group leader for middle school or high school, you want to hang out on Sunday mornings, would you fill out an application on the website? And Christian will contact you and connect you, all right? So how that was like Eileen-ish. That was good. That was good. All right, let me introduce you, or you introduce you.
What? Oh, I thought you were going to go to Craig next. All right. Hi, I'm Katie Kruger. I'm the children's pastor here. Hi, it's nice to see some of you guys again. So it's been a while since I've been on the stage up here. I've been down with the kids because we reopened kids. We relaunched it. It's been really exciting. It's been nice to have the buzz down there with everybody and our leaders and the smiles. And we have developed over COVID a kids leadership team. Part of that is Lisa Emerson, Teresa Maxwell, and Carrie James. Carrie's back here. She oversees our preschool. And then Teresa kind of does our nursery, and Lisa Emerson is helping with elementary. And some of the things that the kids are doing in our elementary right now are just blowing my mind. They're absolutely beautiful. I got a message saying from Lisa last week. She said, it was absolutely beautiful to see the kids responding to Jesus in service. They've done some great prayer experiences, some digging into the Bible and trying to memorize scripture. She's really got them doing some pretty cool things down there. So I get to just kind of sit back and be in awe and watch down there, which is just a really great thing. And I get to hang out with parents and with kids and with our leaders. So I'm loving kind of this newfound role when, we get to learn, we get to do things better together, right? When you're not doing everything by yourself, our ministries can actually be richer. So our kids leadership team has been a huge highlight for me. We also kind of nailed down a new vision for our kids ministry, which I did print out some over here. If you're interested in taking a look, you can grab that. I won't go over all that, but we really kind of condensed down what does it mean for kids to belong? What does it mean for them to grow? And what does it mean for them to serve? And we're currently working on those vision statements for preschool and nursery and VBS and elementary. And we really just want to be intentional with our kids so that they get to experience Jesus, just like you do up here. The other thing that we've kind of created, and one of the things that I stand by, is that every kid needs a person and a place. Can you guys say that with me? Every kid needs a person and a place. That's right. We're kind of coining that for our kids' ministry. That's one of the things you might hear a lot. And what that means is that Mountain View, we want Mountain View to be a place that kids can experience Jesus, that they can feel safe, that they can find that person. Well, in order to have a person, we need grow groups for kids. So we are going to be launching a new kind of programmatic element to our kids this fall, where we're going to actually have grow group kids. And so be listening for more of that. We're working out some of the details for that. But I would like to say, if God has put upon your heart to work closely with kids, to invest in the lives of a small group of kids and really walk life with them, if that's something you're interested in, that's something we want to do here and we want to offer our kids at Mountain View. And I would love to give you that opportunity to serve our families and our kids in that way. So make sure you fill out an application online for that, and I'll contact you about that. Let me see. There's so many fun things going on right now. We've got VBS coming up. Oh, I can't believe I almost forgot about that. VBS coming up July 12th through the 15th. And our theme this year is Press Play, but we're going to take it to outer space. So it's going to be pretty fun. There's going to be some astronauts joining us. Not real ones, just dressed up ones. That would be really expensive. So Mike, I won't overspend my budget line. So we've got that coming up, and then I'm super excited. If you guys have not laid eyes on the new kids check-in area over here that's developing, I'm so excited. It's just going to be such a great welcoming environment for our families and for our kids to just get that first impression of where we are, what we are here at Mountain View, and it's going to give our leaders and volunteers an opportunity to invest and connect better with our families. So I'm grateful for the work that George has led up, so thank you for all that. So yeah, I think that was it. There's a lot going on in kids, so I probably took more than 2 minutes.
Well, hey, I'm Craig. I'm the discipleship pastor around here and the guy that does whatever Tom doesn't want to do. Shucks. 13 years ago, we gathered with some men and their boys on the side of the Clackamas River and had our first man-up camp out. Next weekend, we go on our 11th man-up camp out with a whole new group of guys that I am pretty excited about. All of those men and their boys have grown up and graduating. We're getting to see them go to college. We're getting to see them produce work in productive jobs in our community. We're getting to see them lead in areas of our church. And not just the investment in the boys, but the investment in relationship between the men. And we're getting ready this year to pass that on to the next generation. And we're really excited about that. We didn't know what this year was going to look like. It's been kind of rocky the last 4 years. 3 years ago, I don't know if you remember, but there were some wildfires that happened over in Central Oregon. And we were at a place where we were having to have 2 weekends of man-up camp out. And the first weekend, Mike Link and I got over there on Thursday, and we kind of dropped the initial stuff off. We were waiting for the rest of the setup crew to come. We came up over the crest of a hill, and I was watching flames of a grass fire come our direction. And Mike and I had to call the owners of the ranch, and we had a conversation, and we had to call everybody and say, guys, we can't come this year. And we couldn't even go the next weekend. So 3 years ago, we didn't get to have camp out because of the fires. 2 years ago, we moved it to June to get away from the hot weather. We got to have camp. Then last year, we got ready to go, and, well, here we are. And so I had no idea. But I'm really pleased that we have 20 boys and 13 dads going with us, and a whole new generation of young boys coming up and men, and it's exciting. I'm looking forward to the relationships that will be built amongst those men, knowing that almost half of those men are coming by invitation of the men in our church. So we're just going to begin to build some relationship with some guys and a community with them over the next weekend. It's really good. So for the rest of it, so if you could find 5 or 6 people, circle up, make a circle. We're going to do some small group stuff tonight because no, we're not going to do that. Tom says, life change happens in circles, not in rows. So if we want some life change to happen tonight, we're going to have to circle up. We've been working for a number of years on some different levels of really trying to make Mountain View not just a church with groups, but a church of groups. And during the last half of COVID, I have been doing a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of writing, a lot of contemplating about how it is that we really increase the number of people that lead groups, not only to provide an opportunity for Mountain View people to participate and be in a group and be in community, but so that the 77,000 people out in Gresham that don't have a church home would have a place to belong and a safe place to begin to discover and to talk about and to contemplate and to ask and discuss the questions about God and spirituality that they want to discuss. We often don't believe that the people outside the walls of our building and outside of our sphere of Christian circles want to talk about God and about Jesus. However, Tom and I ran across some stuff with Sean Tomei this spring that clearly indicates in a survey that 6 out of 10 people in East County under the age of 40 would be interested in engaging in a spiritual conversation. They are not as interested in walking through the front doors of the church building, but they want to talk about spiritual things. And so we are working very diligently this year. I'm working with a team of 5 folks to move us to a place where we can accomplish the goal of doubling the number of leaders and moving our groups out into our community so that we can affect life change both here and in our Judea and Samaria, here in our local community. One of the other ways we're going to continue to do that, a couple of weeks ago we saw a commercial with our school counselor up the street, and if you missed it, we are the church down the street in that video. We're going to continue to be the church down the street for Highland Elementary, and a place for them to come and a place for them to belong, and a place to help meet their needs. And we're going to continue to do that and to affect life change and to give Christmas gifts. So be ready. We're gonna love on Highland Community and their families again this Christmas. And then last, just a couple of things that are fun for me to get to do if you've not heard about them. One is 11 months from now, on the last of May next year, 2022, we are going on a cruise in Asia Minor. It's called the Footsteps of Paul. And so if you would be interested in visiting some of the places where the Apostle Paul planted some churches, there are some brochures out in the foyer. You can pick some of those up. I'd be more than happy to talk with you about what it would look like for you to participate with us in the Footsteps of Paul cruise. Then 2 years from May 2023, we're going back to Israel. And so if you have ever been interested in literally walking in the footsteps of Jesus, and sitting in the Garden of Gethsemane and praying where Jesus prayed, walking through the streets of Old Town, you can talk to me or raise your hand if you've gone to Israel with me or with my brother. You can talk to any of the people that have raised their hand if you think you want to go. If you don't want to go, don't talk to them because they will convince you that it is a life-changing trip, that is worth the investment. Couple of things. I would love to talk with you about those and to share that experience with you. Thanks.
All right. Really quick, Liz, why don't you come on up here really quick? Wanted to give Liz an opportunity to talk about part of our local missions. Local and Global has taken an interesting shift this year. One of the things that happened early on in COVID was just helping people who immediately got displaced. And if you remember in the state of Oregon, the unemployment system didn't work. Do you guys remember this? It feels like it was so long ago, and it was just 12 months ago. And so suddenly we had people, even in our own church, who were out of work and didn't have income coming in yet from the state. And so it wasn't that they were in severe, dire need and didn't have any money. They just didn't know what to do today. And Mountain View, we ended up purchasing through our benevolence many gift cards to the grocery store, gift cards to some food places, gift cards to, and as people shared those needs, we just made sure we met them. Another thing we did, do you remember the fires? Remember the fires? I've got a story with that. I won't do that tonight. But anyway, we had the fires going on, and people suddenly were displaced. And I was so impressed because we put the call out. We had people camping in our parking lot, and people who were preparing to camp in our parking lot. And I put the call out and said, "Hey, let's just love on these people. I don't know where they're at spiritually. I don't know where they're at in their faith journey." But let's just love on them. And some of you brought gift cards so that they could go get dinner. Some of you did things like, hey, I know somebody in our church opened their home so that people could do laundry. And I went, this is the church. And so locally, we were able to do some remarkable things. In addition, our partnership with Highland cried out. They said, our families are affected. The reality and the truth is we have families in our community whose parents are immigrants, legally or not. They just are. And so when you have a need and you don't get the federal money, guess what? It's serious and it's deep. And these are the people right in our own backyard. And we put the call out and we said they're pleading for food. They were giving 250 food boxes a week out, and they still needed food to supplement that. And my goodness, church, we filled up at least, Connie, what was it? 3 truckloads? 3 truckloads full of food, and took it over there. And you should have seen these people. They're like, and I said, well, don't ask Mountain View if you don't expect them to do it. And then Christmas rolled around, right? And can you imagine Christmas this year? And we certainly had to do our shopping night very different. It had to look different. It had to be different. But man, we did it. And over 120 families got to make sure that they had Christmas in a way that they wouldn't have had it not been for you. And we didn't know how it would work, right? We went from not having a physical tree that you could take a tag from to trying something online, and you did it. And church, I know, I believe in my whole heart that God was up in mighty heaven, right? In the throne room of God saying, that's my church. And so another area that we had to improvise was No One Left Behind, our ministry where we provide a couple of meals a week to the impoverished community. And Liz is the leader of No One Left Behind. So I asked her if she would just share really quick. Yep.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, church, for stepping up for the homeless and the low-income families in the area. Right now, I'll tell you my job. I shop once a week for our food, and I'm the cook. That's the job I love. I don't want to be this leader. Somebody dumped this on me, and they told me it was a 5-year responsibility, and I'm only a few months into it, so I'm freaking out a little bit about that, because I just want to cook. And we serve a meal every Friday evening to about, right now it's about 30 to 40. It was up to 60 to 70 earlier. And then on Sunday, we serve another about 30 to 50 meals. We also send food out to a group of about 50 people every Friday. It goes out to people live at the river, and they don't come to the church, but we send food out to them. So I provide food for them. Sometimes it's leftovers from the week before. They heat it up again, and they can take that along with other things that I might shop for them. It's really wonderful for me as somebody who likes to cook, because I mean at night I'm thinking like, I got a lot of chicken in the freezer. Let's see, what can we do with chicken or hot dogs? Right now I got a lot of chicken and a lot of hot dogs. So, and it's not just hot dogs in a bun. We're going to make every kind of casserole you can with a hot dog. And if you grind it up, it doesn't look like a hot dog. You can call it spaghetti sauce. And if you... So that's the part that I like, is I get to be creative with that. And this is where I would love to open up to other people who love to be creative with their cooking, because I'm just a home cook. This is nothing fancy here. If you enjoy cooking for your family, if 30 people over for Thanksgiving is something you think is the best day ever, then we would love to have you step up and make your favorite casserole for us. It's something that can be made during the week. If you and your grow group want to get together for a service project, you and your family want to bring the kids into church, we cannot have you cook it at home because of health department issues, but you certainly can come into the kitchen, use our chicken, use our hot dogs, and make your favorite recipe. That would be wonderful, and it's really a great way to serve. We can put it in the freezer and have it ready for a meal sometime when I can't come. So that's a great way for even families with kids, put together a meal for us. I have a lot of fun doing it. We have a core group of workers that serve our meals. Another thing that we do, which Mountain View participates with, is every Sunday we hand out what we call comfort items. So this is toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, underwear, shampoo. For those of you that like to travel and you bring home all those little bitty shampoos and soaps, we want them because we hand those out every week. We actually purchase new socks, new underwear, new things for people to get every week if they ask for it. Because some folks are really limited in their ability to keep and wash their underwear from last week. It gets dirty, it gets thrown out, they need some new underwear. So those are the kind of things that we actually spend money on. I'm very frugal with our budget for the food, but there are some things that we do actually spend money on. Fresh fruit is something I like to put in every meal. Right now we're serving out of a sack lunch out the back door. We're not allowing people to come in. I'm hoping this fall maybe we can step up and actually open the doors and come sit down again in here. But fresh fruit, those little applesauce cups, those are the kinds of things that I like to provide in a meal because it's a something fresh element. So those are the kind of things that I have to spend money on. If you feel like you'd like to step up and bring it into church and drop it on the kitchen counter, we would love that. This is definitely a Mountain View project. We have a few bodies that like to come and be there for our folks. We don't necessarily need any more people to come and be there until we start serving inside again. And then we can step it up and get some more bodies in. So thank you, Mountain View, for serving this really special community. Thank you.
How many of you just had flashbacks to middle school lunch? Come on. Yes, I love it. And sometimes it's mystery, right? But I remember, was it Christmas time, Elizabeth? Or was it Thanksgiving? You and your family came in and made several pork loins for one of our dinners. And it's just, so those are opportunities to serve. And I know when it comes to the impoverished community or the homeless community, there's a lot of political tension. What I love about our ministry, and Roger is a part of that, and so Roger, I'll look to you. Sometimes it takes years to make a little bit of progress. But man, once they bust through that door and begin making progress because we just made sure they had clean underwear and clean socks and a clean toothbrush, it's remarkable. A couple weeks ago during second service, there was a young man sitting over here, and I said, tell us your story. You remember when I did this to some of you? I've noticed, by the way, since I've done that, everybody's sitting further back from the stage. Because the next week I threw balls at you, right? And so people are just sitting back. But I said, TJ, and he's like, I was an addict, and I'm not anymore. And he went from living on the streets to being a manager at the Subway down here the street. And I know that if he was here tonight, he would tell you it's because people consistently met the simplest need that helped him finally get out of the hole. Right, Roger? And when we get to see those, what happens?
Yes, and we don't just give them things, we also interact with them and get to know them as people and make friends with them, and that leads to the sharing that gets them.
Relational ministry. Sounds like Jesus, right? So there's an opportunity globally, really quick. Let me share with you globally what's happening. I'm really excited. I think I can share this tonight. A couple of years ago, we brought on a new missionary, and they were supposed to come last summer, and something happened. I don't remember what it was, but it prevented them to travel internationally. I hope someday that's what it was, that I remember it like that, right? But anyway, it is John and Julie, and they serve in a country in Southeast Asia. And the reason I'm saying it that way is because we're on right now that is predominantly 90-some% Islamic country where they're serving. And it's been powerful for us to learn some things. One of the things that's been really remarkable, and I think we're going to be able to hear from them in person in July, one of the things that's been really remarkable is the country where they reside, they have several refugees coming from the Middle East. And they've actually been able to care for these families, particularly families who have special needs children. And so it's been a really remarkable, interesting thing because in the Islamic culture, that's kind of looked down upon. And so here is a missionary that a missionary family, Mountain View is supporting, and Ray and Elizabeth are their liaison, and so you could even talk to them about questions. They're serving, and they are growing a school with refugees. And I think Mountain View is a part of that. And so thank you. We've also continued our partnership with Missions of Hope International, which is Mary and Wallace Kamal, Wallace and Mary Kamal, which is a great ministry. We have been able to send quite a bit of funds, I think almost $100,000 through special gifts and through some missions giving to begin building a permanent structure in the Mathari Valley. In the Mathari Valley, it's awesome. The Mathari Valley is 1.5 miles long and 1/2 mile wide and has almost 1 million people in it. And the community of Gittuthuru is about 6.5 acres. So if you can picture 6.5 acres, our acreage here at Mountain View is 6.66. All right, I still think we need to buy an extra 1/10, all right? But anyway, we have 6.6. If you imagine, that's about the size of the community of Gittuthuru. And there are 40,000 to 60,000 people living in those about 6 acres. And in the middle of it, and I think an 8-story building is being constructed. And their vision is a mountain of hope in the valley of darkness. And Mountain View, you've been a part of that. More importantly than even the building, Mountain View still sponsors about 140 kids a month to make sure that they get education, a school uniform, daily nutrition, spiritual direction. And so, wow, that's all above and beyond what we can't put on the facts and figures. In addition to that, we have Pablo in Mexico, who is also dying to come up here. I mean, he just can't wait to get here. He usually tries to come once a year as his vacation, and he is eager to come. Mexico had some really wild COVID rules. And so he's exhausted. He's worn out. Both our family I just mentioned about in Southeast Asia and Pablo got COVID. And they had to deal with that and struggle through that. Maybe we'll ask some questions about how they experienced it in Southeast Asia, but it wasn't pleasant from the emails we got. They were isolated, and their kids had to cook and clean and pass them meals through underneath the door. And so Pablo has experienced a lot in his community. If you talk to Pablo, he was really discouraged because there was a point in time when the numbers of COVID deaths just spiked. And people were just putting dead bodies in the street. They had no place to put them. And this is just right south of the border. And so his experience has been heart-wrenching. And then we have Carrie, of course, Carrie and Tim in New Zealand, who are doing remarkable work. She's taking actually a little study break right at the moment, and but continuing on in the small group ministry in her home. She's got people in her home all the time. And what I love about Carrie's ministry, if you don't know this, is New Zealand is a hot spot for a lot of people internationally to go and study. And so she is reaching people with the gospel of Jesus by serving them at the table from countries that missionaries can't go. And so it is remarkable what you have been a part of that way. And so those are our main missionaries, and we'll have some more updates coming up. But this summer, you should be able to meet John and Julie. Look forward to that in July. Pablo should be around at some point. And so just look forward to meeting them and understanding their ministry a little bit. Sound good? All right. I've gone about 3 minutes over what I thought at this point. Here's what I want to do, right? This is always dangerous. Does anybody have any question about anything we've talked about tonight? Any hey, I'm just wondering about, well, we've done such a good job, look at that. Any financial questions to Mike? I mean, I'll share the pain. All right. I'll be around. Mike can be here for a few minutes. Any of our other elders, if you have some questions, we'd love to answer those. Let me finish with this thought. I've been rereading a book I read a long time ago by Dallas Willard called Divine Conspiracy. And this is what he says. He says, the Sermon on the Mount is a concise statement of Jesus' teaching on how to actually live in a reality of God's present kingdom. That's what he says. He says, all who hear and do what he says, they will have a life that can stand up to everything. Is the Sermon on the Mount theology driving your life? Is the theology that's guiding the way you live in the world, is it moving you towards God in prayerful love? Is the theology that's guiding the way you live in the world, is it moving you toward loving your neighbor and seeing all humans in the image of God? Is the way that your theology is guiding the way you live in the world, is it empowering you to stand against all forms of oppression against the vulnerable? Is the theology that's guiding the way you live in the world, is it helping you be honest in your personal sin and confronting that? In the interpersonal sin and confronting that? In the institutional sin, is it helping us really become a new creation in Christ? And is the theology that's guiding the way you live in the world, is it forming the fruit of the Spirit in all of your interactions with other people? Especially this year, the people you don't see eye to eye with. I hope so. A guy I like to follow, his name is Simon Sinek, and he says this. He defines a community as a group of people who agree to grow together. I think one of the things I love about Mountain View is that at the end of the day, we can all agree that this year, next year, and the year after that, we're going to continue to be a community that is going to become more like Jesus this year than we were last. We're going to be a community of people who are going to grow together in serving our community, in striving to make a difference in the 77,000 lives in Gresham who do not have a faith foundation. We have big work to do. And Jesus says, I'm going to send you, and I'm going to use you. And so I hope that we're living Sermon on the Mount kind of lives. Does that make sense? Cool. I'm going to ask Pat Sanders. Pat, if you'll just come and meet me over here, that'll be great. I'm going to ask Pat Sanders, our chairman, to pray for us. Let me tell you one thing about Pat really quick, all right? I didn't really kind of ask him for permission, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Pat, in the last year, was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And Pat is pushing forward, and he is striving, and he is continuing to lead our elders with a lot of grace and a lot of mercy and a lot of compassion. And what I would ask you to do, church, is as he finishes this year on our eldership strong, would you please pray for him? Would you lift up him? Will you lift up his wife, Cheryl? Will you pray for them? Sometimes we keep those things very private and very personal, right? But here we are. And I told Pat I wanted to share that because as a church, what do? We grow together. We're a community. And so we can pray for Pat, and we can continue to ask God to give him the best life fighting this disease that he has. And so pray for him, pray for Cheryl, pray for his doctors, pray for his nurses, and just ask God to let him finish strong this commitment as the chairman of our elders this year. Sound good, church? Awesome. So Pat, there you go. You can pray. You want me to hold it? I'm going to try. Okay.
Gracious Father, as we come to the end of our family meeting, we want to thank you for Tom, Craig, Christian, Katie, and Josh as they lead our church. Jesus, our good shepherd, help us to listen to your voice and follow you wherever you lead us in the coming year. Father, may we walk according to the words that have been shared in our small groups and Sunday mornings. I pray that as we move forward in our daily lives, we are a light to a dark world. Amen.
Thank you all for being here. We're around to answer any questions if you have them. Otherwise, you're dismissed. Thanks so much.